Hi, welcome back to McClatchy Maths. My name is Natalie McClatchy and we are continuing our video series today on advanced algebra by looking at factorising by grouping. And this is an important skill that's going to lead you into techniques later on that will be helpful with your quadratic work and also more advanced algebra work. Okay, let's get straight into it. I'm just going to quickly touch on what the prerequisite knowledge is that you need to have before you watch this video in particular. So I'm assuming that you are proficient with factorising different expressions. If you're not, jump back to video 8 in Algebra Getting Started playlist. So you need to be able to do that to be able to factorise by grouping. Secondly, you need to be able to expand double brackets. So we've talked about that in video 8 of the Advanced Algebra playlist, the one that you're in right now. So I'm assuming that you're familiar with techniques such as FOIL. So I'm not going to go back into how to do those today. I'm just making that assumption that you're all good with those topics. So let's get first of all into this process of factorising. We are going to recap that briefly. Now, when we've got an expression and we have terms in that expression that have a common factor, our process is that we find the highest common factor, we take it out of a set of empty brackets. So for example, in the expression 3x plus 6, our highest common factor is 3. We're going to put that outside of a set of empty brackets. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find the quotient for each of these parts of the expression. Now, what I mean, it's a fancy word, quotient. If you're not familiar with that, it's something we use when we talk about division and fractions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3x and divide it by 3. The answer is the quotient. So 3x divided by 3 is simply x, and 6 divided by 3, the quotient or the answer is 2. So that's what goes inside the brackets, is the quotient for each part of that expression. Now, I'm assuming that that makes sense to you, that you understand this part. The reason why I'm taking you through a very easy example here first is that we're now going to bring that into something a lot more complex and apply the same principles to something more difficult. Now, before we jump into that first big example, what I want to do is recognize that in our original expression 3x plus 6, I could have written that as 3 times x plus 3 times 2. And recognizing that that's how I can break that up is I can recognize each part of that between the plus signs, on each side of the plus sign, I've got that 3, that's my highest common factor, and then I've got the x and the 2, that's my quotients that go inside the brackets. Now, this is going to make more sense when you take a look at this example. We've got 2 sets of brackets here. It's not double brackets like we did with FOIL, because they are separated by a plus sign right here in the middle. Okay, so what I've got is 5 outside of brackets, m plus 7, plus 2m, m plus 7. Now, another way I could write that is like I did on the previous screen with 3 times x plus 3 times 2. I could also recognize that this is 5 times m plus 7 plus 2m times m plus 7. Because when a number is stuck onto brackets, there is an invisible multiplication sign in between. Now, this is helpful because when I write it like this, I can recognize that there is a common factor. In fact, that common factor is m plus 7. So just as we did before in our previous example where we took the highest common factor and we put it outside of empty brackets, this time we're actually taking a smaller expression, which is a highest common factor, m plus 7, and it will go outside a set of empty brackets, just like this. Now, you might recognize that this is actually going to look like binomial products, or double brackets as we call it. So once again, we take the what's times by it. So here we've got our common factor. It goes outside the empty brackets. And then what was left over, the quotient, is what goes inside the brackets. We've got a 5 and a 2m. So let's put those inside those empty brackets. Okay, that is our solution. Now we can check that by expanding the 5m plus 7. So basically multiplying it out, we'll get 5m plus 35. And expanding this part, we get 2m squared plus 14m. We could do it that way, simplify that and make that into one expression. And then we could expand this out here using FOIL. And if we get a match for both of them, we know that we've factorized it correctly. It's a bit of a lengthy way of checking, but sometimes checking in a different method is more effective than just checking your work and making sure you've done everything correct, because you technically could make the same mistake twice. Let's look at another example. This one looks a little bit scarier and more complicated because there's subtraction signs pretty much all through. Okay, now it does look a bit scary, but once again, we can recognize that we've got this common factor of y take away 3. So it's our common factor. It's going to go outside of this set of empty brackets. And our quotient is what's left over. This bit here, the y, and this minus, and there's a blank space there. There's no number there. Now, this is where astute students will recognize that actually we can put the number 1 in there. It'll be actually a -1. So what we're going to end up with inside our brackets is a y and a take away 1. So that becomes our solution, y minus 3, y minus 1. Now, once again, you could expand this out, expand that out, and if they're a match, then you know you've done it correctly. Well, that's all we have time for today. I hope you found this video helpful. Here's some ways that you can engage with our channel further to make sure you're getting the most out of your McClatchy Maths experience. First of all, you could like and subscribe, hit that notifications bell so you'll always know when the next video is released. You could share this video with someone. Why not share it with a friend or your teacher or your class if you are a teacher? Or you could even tell us in the comments if you found the video helpful. We love engaging with our viewers. You could also follow us on social media. Facebook is where most of our teachers are joining us, Instagram where most of the students are joining us. And we'd like to build that up so that you've always got information and tips, tricks, memes, etc. coming your way. There's also a feature on YouTube called Super Like. It's not obligatory, but if you want to give back to the channel, because I do spend a fair bit of money buying software, etc. for this channel and resources, so if you want to give back a couple of dollars, why not? And if you've got any questions at all, the best place is mcclatchymaths@yahoo.com. We're fairly responsive with our replies. This is the best place to ask more detailed questions. If you find errors in videos, things like that, great place to let us know through the email. Well, thank you so much for watching today. I'm Natalie McClatchy. Have a wonderful day.